We're headed to the land of cheese curds and college sports. Today we're talking about Madison, Wisconsin.
Welcome to Vacation Mavens, a family travel podcast with ideas for your next vacation and tips to get you out the door. Here are your hosts, Kim from Stuffed Suitcase and Tamara from We Three Travel.
So Tamara, I know you just had a fun little winter getaway to a city that I think a lot of people probably have no clue about what it's all about. So why don't you give us all the lowdown on all the fun things to do in Madison, Wisconsin?
I am happy to. Yeah, it's funny because when I came back, different people that I've run into since I got back, like the person that does the highlights in my hair, she followed my Instagram stories. She's like, I was screenshotting this and showing it to my husband because this looks like now we would like to go there. So hopefully I did a good job, spreading the word that this is a good destination. But yeah, I worked with Destination Madison on a content campaign. So they hosted my trip out there and I got to see what to do in the state capital, but it's also a very big college town because it's home of University of Wisconsin in Madison. And when I was there, it was supposed to be the biggest storm of the year so far, but it ended up being like not quite so overwhelming. It was, maybe like 3 or 4 inches and then a couple more inches later the next day. But it was still kind of fun to be there in the snow and get to see, kind of the snow covered streets. And I know a lot of people will shy away from places in the snow. And it was really funny because I took a food tour and the guide kept apologizing. And I'm like, look, I'm from New England and the people that are on the tour are either from Wisconsin or Michigan. Like, we're okay.
Yeah,
we have our coats on and our gloves. Exactly. Like, no one here is from Florida. We're all doing okay. So, that's just what you have to expect when you're going, to the upper Midwest in the winter.
Well, and I would think some people even would want to take a little snow vacation. I was just talking to a friend who had family in Texas and they were coming up to visit and they were so excited that Seattle had snow because their son, who's like 7, has never seen snow. And so I think that, sometimes even if you're in Florida or Southern California or, really Southern Texas, you might want to experience the white stuff a little because it can be fun and pretty.
It's true. And my family that lives in Florida, they one family has also family in Chicago. And when they've gone to visit, maybe Thanksgiving, the kids are like, is it going to snow? And you're like, we can't promise it.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I feel bad about from people coming from the warmer climates is that you just don't have the gear, you know?
Yeah, true.
It's like, what are you going to do? Buy a jacket just for that time? So that's when you have to borrow from somebody.
You have to borrow. They should do a rental. That would be a good rental service. One of those, clothing rental services or something. They could have a winter box where you get long underwear and a winter coat and toque and gloves and you're good to go.
Business idea.
Yep. There we go.
Since, the podcast pays so well.
Exactly. And since you and I have nothing else to do that keeps us busy.
Nothing at all.
Lots of free time for eating bonbons and watching soap operas.
But I will say that this is definitely a kind of a big destination because so many people are coming in, because it's the state capital and because it's it's a hub for businesses. I was surprised to learn that there's a really big startup community and a lot of tech companies there. And actually, I think they said it's the highest percentage of millennials of any city, which is just surprising, right? You don't think about it, but also I feel like more and more millennials are flocking to the smaller cities because, it doesn't have the cost of the big, New York and LA and San Francisco. And now that there's actual job opportunities there, it's fun because you can have a little bit more of that work-life balance.
Yeah.
And I like to visit those cities because, you're going to have good food and cute shops and there's going to be stuff to do, so I feel like that focus on living in the city too, gives it a different dynamic. And then you have, this giant college university, which obviously tons of people are coming in for that too, which I've never really experienced. I went to a state college, but it was, I don't even know how many people, but it's not one of these big division, one kind of schools, right? So it was all new to me to like see. I'm like, this is still the campus. This is still the campus. Yeah. It's huge, but I also really loved like all the school spirit that you see because their mascot is Bucky the Badger. And so all throughout town, they have these different like statues of like Bucky the Badger. It's like Bucky on the Prowl, that they had done one of those, like the cows on parade kind of thing that they did in other cities. So something like that. And you just see people in the gear and, everyone is, just super, you just has a lot of school spirit, a lot of, pride in the city and the town. And so it's cool. Plus you saw the cheese heads, I was there the day that the Packers were playing in the playoffs. So definitely a lot of Packers gear too.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It sounds like a nice thing. And I think you are right that the Midwest seems to be attracting more and more people kind of flocking back from the coasts and heading to the Midwest because, like you said, I mean, financially, it's great. I mean, people in Silicon Valley are, millennials are sharing a studio apartment with 2 or 3 people to afford the rent. So definitely some benefits.
Yeah,
so
and it's not hard to get to because they had... I think they have like 25 direct flights.
Yeah.
So that gives you a good variety. Like I ended up having to fly through Newark and then direct into Madison. And it is only like 90 minutes, I think, from Milwaukee. So if you could more easily get a direct flight there, it's, drivable. It's not like that far from Chicago. So, I definitely feel like it's a good like weekend getaway destination because it is, fairly accessible.
Cool. Yeah. So why don't you walk our listeners through some of the stuff that you did?
Yeah. So I stayed in 2 different places. We'll start with kind of where I stayed. And part of it was that I really wanted to look at it from a perspective of a parent that's coming to visit the university, like either with their kid or maybe their kid is already going there and they're coming for a parents' weekend. But what else is there to do in Madison? Like not just, the college stuff. But this definitely works whether you're doing it for that reason or for just like a winter weekend getaway. But at first I stayed in the Graduate Hotel, which you've heard of those, right?
Yeah, I have. Yep. I think I know of it because of Tempe has one.
Yep. So you find them in college towns, and actually Providence now has one too. They're really unique because they customize each one to that town and to that university to the level of, like, I was talking to somebody from the Providence, the Graduate in Providence, and the wallpaper design is based on like certain things that are just really like legendary or like part of the culture of that university or that place. Like in Providence, you'll see like the Brown University Brown Bear, and but then there'll be things from like a very famous mayor that we have here in Providence. And in Madison, there's this whole thing with flamingos, and their new like minor league soccer team is something with the flamingos because there's a story about like kind of peppering somebody's lawn with those plastic flamingos. So you see it kind of all throughout town, but they had like a painting in the lobby that had the pink flamingos. But so it kind of has this academic / local vibe, which is really, it's nice because I know like when I travel, and I know you like that too, to have some place that doesn't feel very cookie cutter and generic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's nice. And they have, some food options, and they, at the Graduate in Madison, they actually have like a rooftop restaurant bar called the Camp Triple Lindy. And I put this on my Instagram story because it's named after a 80s movie. Mm-hmm. So can you guess which one?
No, you said, all I can think of is when you said camp, I totally was thinking of it, but I couldn't ever get there. So which movie is it?
So it's actually from Back to School, because I'm pretty sure it was when like Rodney Dangerfield he did like the triple Lindy, like backflip into the
backflip. Yes,
like that.
I remember that. I remember that.
Just like little like kitschy kind of stuff like is around, and it has like a little bit of that camp feel. And it's just cute and fun, and it has some nice views. I mean, Madison, one thing that I didn't know is that it's actually surrounded by 5 lakes. So a lot of the city has kind of this nice waterfront, which makes for awesome like bike paths and running paths. And it's a very like outdoor kind of destination too. Actually, the guy that I was like hanging out with there, he was telling me that they actually plow like the bike path before they plow the roads because so many people like bike year round to work. And I was like, well, that's that was shocking. You know, I never heard of a place that did that before.
Cool. And so you said you had 2 places that you stayed at. Where was the second one?
So the next one was really nice for a more upscale stay. Like maybe the Graduate is great when you're bringing your teen with you, you know, or if you just want to be like really downtown and really central. But if you're willing to be just a tiny bit further away from like the main State Street, I stayed at the Edgewater, which is a very nice upscale hotel. It's right on the lake. They have a spa. They have a couple of restaurants. You know, it's just like it's a very nice hotel. And I had a very
nice Edgewater out here in Seattle. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a.
I'm sure it's not the
chain.
same. Yeah, I don't think it's a chain. I'm just saying it's funny that it's the same name.
It was all like renovated recently, and so my room was nice and big. Actually, I loved my bathroom. My shower was huge. It was like a 4x4 shower, and I was like, "Can I just hang out in here for a while?" You know,
that would be brutal for me because I love like shower for thinking, and I listen to audiobooks or podcasts, and pretty soon 20 minutes later.
About this one, it didn't have a bench because if there was a place for you then to sit down in like a nice warm, you know, water.
Oh, nice.
Because you're warming up,
meditate in there.
Yeah, I know. I'm really so. One of my New Year's resolutions is to try to take shorter showers, just for environmental reasons.
Yeah.
And like the other day, I caught myself kind of zoning out, and I'm like, turn it off.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's definitely a sacrifice for me. I love my showers.
It's hard.
But yeah, I had a nice balcony too. And it actually has like a screen door. So if you're staying there in the summer, you can like let the lake breeze come in, but have the screen door, you know, so no bugs or anything else is coming in. And it overlooked what they have in the winter, which is an ice skating rink, which, you know, is right on the lake. Well, it's not on the lake. They're right next to the lake. So that's a fun thing that you can do too.
Yeah, I saw that and it was kind of cool. And the lake, it looked pretty big. I mean, the picture you had
very
posted,
big. Yeah.
It was like, whoa, that's not the ocean, you know? Like,
it's definitely one of those
Midwest lakes.
Yeah, it's one of those lakes where, you know, when it's choppy, you're not going out in the kayak, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice. And actually, it started to ice over when I was there. And they said usually by this time of year, it is iced over. And they're hoping it actually stays a little bit cold because in a couple of weeks, they have a festival where they have things out on the ice, you know? So definitely needs to get a little bit colder there for them to do that. But yeah, I enjoyed both stays, and even the Edgewater, you could walk, I don't know, 5-10 minutes tops to like the Capitol building, which is kind of in the center of Madison. Like it's almost like no matter where you turn, if you're in that downtown area, because it has 4 different like entrances and facades that all kind of look alike. So they, you know, it's on a big square right in the center of town. So it kind of dominates the landscape there, it's a beautiful building too.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds really nice. So you've talked about where you stayed. So what do you want to do next? Maybe fun things you did or cool places you ate? I saw lots of food on your Instagram.
Yes. Well, you know, I did a food tour, so that in and of itself is a lot of food. But yeah, I would love to talk about what we did. So when I first arrived, I got there kind of midday. So we went and we had lunch, and then we did a little walking tour of the state capitol building, which they have free tours on the hour. You don't have to make reservations. You can go, and the building is beautiful. You know, like those beautiful domes. And
I know those state capitol buildings. I'm always amazed. You know, like I forget how gorgeous they are. You know, like so many people want to go to Washington D.C. and it's like, you know, sometimes in your own home state, you have something beautiful too.
Yeah, I agree. And it's free to walk in. You don't have to take the tour. You can just kind of wander around on your own, which is nice too. You can just take as much time as you want. And then we walked down State Street, which is the main street that leads kind of from the Capitol building down to the lake, but also the college. And it's where you'll find a lot of boutiques and restaurants and bars and things like that. And as you go down, you kind of see the transition from downtown to college town, you know, so it gets a little bit more casual, you know, like more the takeaway stuff as you get closer to the school. So, but it was all good. And there's really wide avenues, wide sidewalks, like kind of quiet, like just clean, like very clean. Yeah. Like everything it was very nice to visit. We kind of walked around the, you know, like the university, like where the union is, and they have this terrace that in the summer, like a lot of people, even like not just students, but people from the community go and hang out and just like we'll have a drink there. And yeah, so that was really nice. And then that evening, we went to a men's hockey game, Wisconsin
awesome.
versus Ohio State. And it was a lot of fun. Like I've gone to like a Brown hockey game here, but the rink, not the rink, but the arena, I guess, is a lot smaller. And it was like going to a professional hockey game. It was a sea of red, for all the fans that are coming in. And it was exciting. But the nice thing is that it's like really family friendly. Like you see tons of kids, tons of families there. Like maybe they have season passes, and then you also have like the student section, which is cheering like mad, and the marching band. And, it's just like a lot of energy and excitement.
Yeah.
And they do some of those things that that you'll find at a lot of minor league games, like little fan involvement things. Like during one of the breaks, like before the Zamboni came out, they had these two girls, they were like connected by a bungee cord, but they had to like kind of fight against each other on skates to try to like put something in like a ball in a basket or something like that. But it was really funny. And then there's other parts where they were just showing like all the kids like flossing in the stands, and they had Bucky the Badger, the mascot, like going around. And so it was just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I feel like if you are going to be in a college town, like why not try to capture some of that college spirit? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next day I started off, we went to a farmer's market at this Garver feed mill. And so it's an old mill building that they've redone, and they're going to do events in there. And there's like a permanent like kombucha place, and there's a pizza place, and there's a spa, and there's some other things. But then on Saturday mornings, at least in the winter, they host a farmer's market there, which is kind of always fun. Of course, those are the things where I always want to like buy and eat way more. Like you think of like you're going just for produce, and you come back with like cinnamon rolls and a thing of cheese curds, and why not get some maple syrup and like all that kind of stuff. But it was fun to walk through that. And then I took a little walk over right next door. There's a botanical gardens, which even in the winter you can walk through, but they also have a conservatory, which is free on Saturday mornings. One thing I will say about Madison is so many things are free. Like a lot of their museums, and they have a nice looking contemporary art museum. Their zoo is free. Like so many of the different attractions are free, which I just find amazing.
I find that a lot in the Midwest. It's, it can really make for budget and affordable travel, because once you get there, you can certainly stay busy without paying for a lot of expensive, admission fees.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
And then you'll be a little jealous of what I did next, because I went to a spa. And it was, I can't pronounce it right, but the Ayurvedic kind of spa, where it's more touchy-feely, like more about the meditation, relaxation, So it's not like when I go get a massage at home, it's like I have a really bad, tight muscle here, and I'm going to come home and take Advil because, you've put me in pain.
Yeah.
But we worked out that kink. It was not that kind of massage. It was very, very just gentle with oil. And I swear I must have fallen asleep like 4 times. I kept like jerking myself awake, like, wake up, like, did I just snore? Like that kind of thing. But it was so relaxing. Nice. And they also had like a steam and a sauna there. I didn't have a chance to use those, but a very nice like relaxation area and a little meditation area, which by the way, have you ever tried to hang in one of those like sit in one of those like teardrop swings? Do you know what I'm talking about? They kind of look like
like the hanging chairs kind of, but yes. Yeah. Yep. I've seen them. I've sat in kind of hanging chairs, but never the teardrop-y, like wide, like they're kind of like little lounge platforms, right? That are like hanging. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was in the meditation area, and I had some time to kill, and I'm like, let me climb in there. That looks like all cozy and nice. And I'm in my robe. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like if you could add video of me trying to climb into this thing. And then once I get in, like, of course, like my robe is flapped open because, I'm like trying to climb into this thing. And then it starts like spinning around. And I'm sure it would have settled down. But exactly. I'm getting seasick. I'm like, how do people like meditate in this? Clearly, like they're much more graceful than I ever am. And
that's
so
how I
was
feel
like
about
climbing
hammocks.
right back out.
Yeah. I feel that way about hammocks. Like every time I'm at a nice like resort and there's a hammock there. I'm always like, I try and get in it and then I get in it and it's like swaying and I start getting seasick and I'm like, this is not relaxing. Like I have to like look over to the side. Like I'm going to stay focused on a solid point on the horizon. I'm like, this is not relaxing.
It would have been one of those moments where it'd be like, you know how people do like the Pinterest versus reality? It would have been like Instagram versus reality, you know, because there'd be some like gorgeous
like
person.
Some gorgeous person with her like tan legs, like leaning out and the perfect book placement, of course. And then there'd be you and I and we're like, you know, spinning around with the robe gaping. And then right when you get settled, they'd come in and be like, call your name because your appointment's ready.
Exactly. I'm so glad there's no one else around because no one had to see that embarrassment. And I just get to talk about it. It was good. But yeah, so after that,
you had your treatment and then you were able to relax, you know?
Yeah. And then that afternoon I went on a food tour, which you know that I love to do food tours because it's just such a great way to explore different areas. And again, this was not downtown, although they have one downtown, but I did the hip East Side neighborhood. So it was called the Atwood Brew and True with Madison Eats food tours. And it was fun. It was also mostly on one road and it wasn't very far walking. So in terms of doing it in the winter, totally fine because you're mostly inside. But we hit a taco place with a margarita. And then we went to a place where, a wine like shop / wine bar. And then we went to like I think a Thai place and then a chocolate place, which was amazing. And they talked about how they make chocolate. And then we went to this place called Nutcrack, which is kind of a funny name. But they make basically some kind of like sugary candied pecans. And then it's like, I don't know, like they're yummy. They have one that's spicy and one that's not. I don't like nuts and I tasted it and it was pretty good. I didn't like the spicy one, but the sweet one was a little bit addictive. So yeah, it was fun. And then we ended at a brewery and of course had cheese curds. So it was one of those ones where there was a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of, good amount of food, really great guide. So it was definitely fun. And if someone is going to Madison, I would definitely say, look up Madison Eats as an option. Nice. And then, that evening I had a really interesting experience that you are not going to have very many places. And I went to a place called Madison's Circus Space. And apparently it's one of 3 dedicated kind of like learning circus spaces in the country. Oh. So it's kind of where like amateurs and people that are learning circus arts come together and they learn like the aerial, like the silks and it's called like the German wheel. I think it's like a big like wheel that you kind of like you stand in and you go upside down. I don't know how to describe it. And there was like a slack line. And so they did different acts, but it had that feel of like community theater, where it's not like it's not Cirque du Soleil, but everybody's super excited because they probably know some of the performers, but it was like cute and entertaining. And I feel like there's just a lot of entertainment type of options when you're in Madison. I forget how many they said, but something like maybe 14 performing spaces, like live music or, other kind of performing arts spaces in the town. So like definitely whatever your preferences are, I'm sure you can find something going on that night.
Cool.
And one of the other cool things that Madison does is they've worked with a lot of their partners in the area to put together what they call like the essential Madison experiences. And if you go to the Destination Madison website, you can find these, but they've worked with, I don't know, like the chocolate place to do something like whether it's, I think they worked with one of the restaurants to do like a mixology course. And I know that one of the places that I went the next day, they do some kind of like cooking demo and course. So if you want to find something like to do that's kind of hands-on, they have these really cool experiences of all different types that kind of take it to the next level. Like there's a cheese shop downtown called Formagination. Like fromage, and they have some type of experience that they do there. And so it's kind of a fun way, especially I think if you are traveling as a couple, to find something kind of cool and different to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But then, my last day, we did something that I asked to put on the agenda, and it sounds like super quirky, but I went to the National Mustard Museum because I happen to love mustard.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not like a huge like roadside attraction or like, collections kind of person, I was like, this sounds really cool because there's like a mustard museum downstairs, which basically has containers and bottles and cans and just like all kinds of like hundreds and hundreds of like old mustard like memorabilia. And it's kind of funny because there's like a little video and they have all these signs that are like just totally throwing shade at ketchup. You know, they're like, woman goes out to get ketchup and house burns down, you know, like different kind of funny things. But the real, like to me, the really great part is upstairs because they have a shop, but they have a mustard tasting bar. Oh, so they have like nice. 200 to 300 kinds of mustard. And you can taste whatever you want. Like almost all of them are open. They have like this whole case back there and they just give you like a little spoon of mustard. So I was going crazy. I was basically like, oh, and they have them in sections. It's like spicy ones, German ones, ones with herbs, you know, like all kinds of different categories. And so I would just kind of go through the shelves of the different, you know, displays and be like, well, that one sounds interesting. And I would go over and be like, can I try, you know, whatever. And it's funny because right before we recorded today, my shipment arrived of my mustard because I couldn't bring it back with me because it was carry-on only. But I'm like, yeah, I found some that were unique enough that I wanted to ship because I love mustard. Hannah like thinks it's disgusting. She's definitely a ketchup girl. And so I'll like totally gross her out by taking like a spoon of mustard. She's like, that's gross. Like, how could you eat that? Yeah. I think I tried like 20 kinds. I'm like, all right, my stomach really hurts. Like I need to stop now. But it was good.
Nice.
Yeah. And then one of my last things that we did is we went for a walk through the Arboretum, which again, even though it was snowy, they have all these trails that are open for, you can do snowshoeing or cross-country skiing or just, you know, some hiking. And they have, in that area, there are a lot of effigy mounds from Native Americans. And so one of the places we walked by was a sacred spring for the Ho-Chunk people, I believe it is. And they like to have like the effigy mounds like near one of these springs. And so, yeah, I thought that was interesting to kind of learn a little bit more history, culture, you know, so, and get a little outside exercise, working off my cheese curds. So nice. It was good.
That's
awesome. We had a really, really nice time. I enjoyed it. The people are super friendly. Like, yeah, everything was good. I loved Madison.
That's awesome. It sounds like a great little excursion for, like you said, a weekend away and probably a good, I mean, if it's close to Milwaukee or maybe Chicago, you could even maybe split it between two other, you know, like go to another Midwest city nearby and make it kind of like a 3-day and 3-day.
Definitely.
Very cool. Well, anything else to share before we wrap up about your time or special places you went? I
would say there were a couple of restaurants that really stood out to me. Cool. So if you are going, one of the ones that I really loved was called the Everly, and it was not downtown. It was in a neighborhood called the Monroe neighborhood, and it was described to me as veggie forward, which I thought was pretty hysterical, but actually very accurate. They had a lot of small plates that were, you know, really veggie focused. Mm-hmm. And so I just feel like not only do I need to share it because I really love the food and the atmosphere, but also because otherwise you would think that all I ate was cheese curds and fried stuff, which is not the case.
And mustard.
I had, and mustard, exactly. Cheese curds and mustard. Yeah, so I found it, you know, a very nice break from some of the other stuff, and it was really yummy. And also where we had lunch was called Gray's, and that is right downtown. Actually, I forgot to mention that I did pop into their children's museum, which if you are visiting with young kids and you have some time to kill, it's a very cute children's museum. But right near that is a place called Graze, like Graze. Mm-hmm. And it was really good. Beautiful bar, too, if you want to go for cocktails. They had amazing cheese curds. But then the other stuff that they had is like a mix. Like I actually had like a Korean bibimbap, or however you pronounce that. But it's like the rice bowl with the egg on top and all the veggies. So it's not all like pub grub kind of stuff.
Nice.
And so those two I loved. And for breakfast, we had a nice breakfast at a place called the Short Stack, which has some good pancakes, as you may imagine.
Are they like big fluffy, like just different mix-ins on them, or is it?
Yeah, they had quite a few. They had one that was like, I think sweet potato oatmeal or something like that.
Interesting.
But I got blueberry. I was boring.
I remember we did that pancake place in the Florida Keys, that outdoor seating, really popular brunch spot.
Yeah.
And you got the pineapple one, which was a little too.
I decided I didn't want pineapple in my pancake anymore.
Yeah, no more pineapple in the pancake. So it's funny how you have those ideas, but cool. Well, it sounds like a great trip. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, and thank you to Destination Madison for having me out there and working with me on this. I will definitely have some blog posts coming up soon, and so if people want to learn more, they can check it out on We3 Travel.
Cool. And we'll wrap up with a final question that we ask all of our guests. Did you wear anything or pack anything specific to help you with the cold weather that maybe might help our listeners if they're planning a winter destination trip?
Well, I did not know you were going to ask me that.
I'm being all oddball. See, surprise.
But I did actually have to buy something new for this trip, and I'm glad that I had it. But last year, my crappy old snow boots that I'd had forever, like the zipper broke on them, and so it's not very good when all the snow gets in your snow boot. And I completely forgot that at the end of the season, I threw them out because I have a tendency of being like, I can just make it last another year. I'll just keep it. And then if I really want to convince myself that I need to get a new one next year, like I throw it out at the end of that season, except I forgot that I did that. So one day I'm like digging through in our garage. I have this like basket of like our outdoor shoes kind of thing. I'm digging through and I'm like, where are my snow boots? Where are my snow boots? And I was finally like, oh, right. I threw them out last year. So I quickly had to go onto like Zappos and start researching. I didn't want to spend a ton, but I found a good deal actually on Columbia, because I love Columbia brand stuff.
Yes.
I found these nice snow boots and they were very comfortable, kept my feet really warm. Can't tell you exactly what the style was, but maybe I'll put it in our show notes if I can dig it up. But I liked them. And so that's one thing I packed, even though it took up a fair amount of room in my suitcase and I needed them.
Nice. Very nice. Cool. Well, if anyone is looking for more on Tamara's trip, they can always go check her Instagram out at We3 Travel. And like she said, she'll be having blog posts soon. As always, thanks for joining us for another episode of Vacation Mavens. We love chatting with you every week and hope that we've inspired you to put somewhere new on your bucket list.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.